Hey guys, there are some pretty ridiculous superheroes out there, but guess what? There are even more stupid villains. So many terrible themes, so many useless powers, it's ridiculous. And I'm gonna talk about some of my faves. Now to be clear, I'll be talking about the concept of the supervillain being dumb, not them actually being stupid themselves. Although in many cases both apply. Now with no further ado, I'm Ron Mackenzie Lafergie with Top 10 Nerd, and here are my top 10 dumbest supervillains. Number 10. Calendar Man. Calendar Man is a Batman villain who changes his attacks to match the date. Whether it's based on the day of the week or the holiday it falls on, Calendar Man has a plan and an outfit to fit. Because if you lack any special powers or intelligence, you better have pizzazz. Even though he's not a very good villain, he does show up several times in Batman comics, even acting as an expert in holiday-themed villains when Batman's up against a serial killer who kills on holidays. Calendar Man basically does a Hannibal Lecter thing with Batman, although somewhat less chilling and somewhat more ridiculous. That said, I would kill to see Anthony Hopkins playing Calendar Man, because why not? Number 9. Condiment King. You can probably guess this guy's modus operandi. He shoots condiments at people. Even though Condiment King was basically just a throwaway joke from the animated series, he'll always have a place in my heart simply because his pun game was on point. The big bad bat guy, I knew you'd catch up to me sooner or later. How I relished this meeting. I mean, what did you expect? Number 8. Stilt Man. Stilt Man is a man who uses stilts. And his superpower is he's taller than other people because of the stilts. Okay, I may be selling him a bit short. He does have a very strong suit with extendable telescopic legs, which is definitely more useful than plain stilts, but not by much. Fighting against Daredevil and getting whooped every time, Stilt Man has surprisingly returned several times to the comics, even sparking a lady Stilt Man. And in case you're wondering, do you mean Stilt Lady? No. I mean Lady Stilt Man. It doesn't make any sense. It's like Frank Jr. from Friends. People just don't understand how names work. But whatever, you do you, Lady Stilt Man. Number 7. The Kangaroo. As with many Spider-Man villains, the Kangaroo is an animal-based villain with the ability to jump pretty high. Also, he can jump pretty far. And did I say jump high already? Yeah, his powers aren't exactly the most versatile, and they come from the stupidest source ever. He's Australian and ate a lot of kangaroo feed when he was a kid. When he realized his incredible power, he eventually turned to a life of crime, and by that I mean a life of getting beat by Spider-Man. Number 6. Leapfrog. Hey look, another villain who jumps high. How fresh and exciting! Vincent Petilio, a poor inventor, decided to turn to crime to get the money he deserves. He creates a set of jumping springs and becomes the Leapfrog. With majestic leaps, he bounds into action, intent on stealing as much money as Oh, never mind, Daredevil already beat him. Yeah, he was a pretty lame and short-lived villain. The good news is, his son Eugene was inspired by his father's costume, and he became Frogman, a frog-based superhero. But he was pretty terrible too. Surprise, surprise. At this point, I'm waiting for DC to make a hero based on Zabu from Zaboomafoo. Number 5. BATROC the Leaper. People need to stop trying to make jumping a superpower. Jumping is not going to happen. Anyway, as you probably guessed, BATROC the Leaper tried to make jumping happen, but his jumping was so not fetch. That said, despite the dumb name and the uselessness of a jumping ability, he was actually a pretty sick martial artist, using a French version of kickboxing called savate. BATROC is probably the most well-known villain on this list, since he did appear in various animated series and was actually made pretty badass in Captain America Winter Soldier, where he was played by UFC fighter Georges St. Pierre. Despite the fact that BATROC is actually a pretty competent villain, his power is kind of negligible and pretty darn dumb. Number 4. Crazy Quilt. Crazy Quilt is a Batman villain who went blind after suffering a gunshot wound. He underwent an experimental procedure to get his sight back, but it was only partially successful, allowing him to only see bright colors. Crazy Quilt covers himself in bright colors so he can see himself, I guess, and shoots lasers and flashes of light to blind his enemies. You'd think a light-based villain might actually be kinda good against the Dark Knight, but he's beaten pretty easily. I guess he just needed more gadgets. Maybe the ability to see. Number 3. The Living Eraser. The Living Eraser is an alien from Dimension Z, who works for the Supremacy kidnapping scientists to force them to build nuclear weapons. Using his Dimensionizer, the Living Eraser erases his victims, sending them to Dimension Z. While on Earth, it looks like they've disappeared or been erased. While the whole sending people to a different dimension thing is kinda neat, choosing to do it with a villain named the Living Eraser is just so cheesy and lazy. I can just just picture someone sitting at a desk and erasing their idea for the 10th time and looking at their eraser and going, Eureka! I have a mediocre idea! The living eraser is certainly more useful than some other villains on this list, but that does not mean he's good at all. Number 2. Typeface. Gordon Thomas was a US Army soldier. When he returned to the US, his wife leaves him, taking their son with her. Crushed, Thomas becomes a signsmith, but is soon laid off. Understandably frustrated, Gordon does what any reasonable person would do in this situation. He glues a bunch of letters to himself and sets out to exact revenge on his old boss as Typeface. When he's stopped by Spider-Man, the web-slinger convinces him the error in his ways, and Typeface decides to become a vigilante fighting in the name of good. He's basically like the Punisher if the Punisher was terrible and had a stupid costume. Number 1. The Green Gobbler. The Green Gobbler is the Spider-Ham parody version of the Green Goblin. He's a turkey. Fighting alongside the other epic villains, Elector, Mysteriape, King Pig, and Doctor Doom, Green Gobbler fights to defeat Peter Porker's Spider-Ham, alongside the animal heroes Captain Americat and Bruce Bunny. Yep, it's so dumb, but also so amazing. Don't knock it till you tried it. That's it for today. Hopefully you find these villains as ridiculous as I do. If you enjoyed, smack that thumbs up button and make sure to let me know your favorite weirdo villains in the comments. Until we meet again, I'm Ron Mackenzie LaFergie with Top 10 Nerd. Later, nerds.